Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Glycine Combat Sub 39 Bronze reference GL0517. This watch is available from glycinestore.eu for €675. Glycinestore.eu are based in the Netherlands. They are the authorised dealer for Glycine watches in Europe, and the benefit of that is if you're based in the EU there is no import tax to pay. So this Glycine Combat Sub 39 Bronze is a novelty or new release from Glycine, and it's available in 4 colour options: black, blue, green and burgundy respectively. Of the 4 colour options, I think this black version is the best looking. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is housed inside this outer black cardboard box. So one removes the lid, which is a snug fit, pulls down the flap, and I'll take out the watch box and show it to you. So it's protected by both tissue paper and also foam, which does a good job of protecting the watch box from any damage. This is the watch box itself. As you can see, on the hinge lid we have the Glycine crown emblem, and also since 1914, because Glycine was founded originally in Switzerland in 1914. Hinge lid to the watch box, and the interior has a contrasting vinyl grey material to it, and also we have the Glycine crown emblem, Glycine and since 1914. The base is also fully upholstered to a good standard with vinyl, which is in grey. So in the base there's a cutout, and the watch sits on a padded pillow cushion which is also upholstered with grey vinyl to a good standard. So good presentation, and immediately one gets the impression that the Combat Sub 39 Bronze is a high quality Swiss made piece. Now with regards to the items, it comes with 2 owner's instruction manuals because the Combat Sub is available in both quartz and automatic versions. I've previously reviewed both. The quartz version, which was a 42, and I've also reviewed a 39mm version, which was automatic. So this is the owner's instruction manual for the automatic. Clear, concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Glycine caliber GL0224 automatic. And you also get a second owner's instruction manual, which is for the quartz versions. This is the plastic warranty card that comes with the watch, and I'm pleased to report it's covered by a 2-year international warranty. It's filled in with the reference number of the piece, the date of purchase, and it's stamped with Tandem Watch Group BV, the Netherlands, which is glycinestore.eu, and as I've detailed, they are the authorised Glycine dealer for Glycine watches in Europe. One also gets this Glycine branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of a piece. And one also gets this Glycine fabric keyring. As you can see, it has the Glycine logo on one side and it says remove before flight on the other side. And lastly, one also gets this plastic Glycine tag which has the crown emblem embossed as well as the logo, and on the reverse it has the barcode and the reference number for the piece, GL0517, which is the Combat Sub 39 Bronze. So good presentation and good to get a 2-year international warranty with the piece. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 39mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 46.5mm, a thickness of 11.5mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The nylon fabric NATO strap is straight and parallel, doesn't taper, 20mm at the lugs and 20mm at the buckle and tang. The buckle and tang are solid bronze, which matches the solid bronze case, and engraved to a high standard with high definition engraving of the Glycine logo. Nice heavy gauge to the bronze buckle and tang, and I like the mirror polished bevels on the edge, which mark the transition between the outer body and the flanks. Good quality brushed satin finishing to it, very aesthetically pleasing, no sharp edges, no burrs to it, and it's nice to see a signed high quality bronze clasp. 2 keepers on the NATO strap, as you can see, and they're both fixed. Also nice attention to detail, because on the end of the strap we've also got the Glycine crown emblem embossed, as you can see, and this prevents the end of the strap fraying as well. And also there's a strip of vinyl, as you can see, which runs down the centre around the holes, and that prevents the holes fraying. And this is very good because often nylon NATO straps have a tendency to fray, the holes become elongated with regular wear, but by having this vinyl strip which is stitched around the perimeter, it prevents the holes becoming elongated and fraying. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the gilt brushed satin finished handset, and also the gilt chapter ring, minute ticks, and also the gilt Arabic numerals for the 24 hours on the dial. So AR coating works well. Now with regards to the dial, it's matte black, which is good because it's not glossy and reflective as per a black enamel dial, and also a reflective sunburst black dial. I like the matte finish of it because the gilt Arabic numerals for the 24 hours contrast very well. The gilt minute ticks on the chapter ring also contrast very well. The text on the dial is high definition and crisp, it's not too thick, it's not blurry, and also the quality of the printing to the Glycine logo is very good. I like the applied gilt crown emblem at 12 o'clock, it adds interest and gives the piece a high quality feel. Symmetry of the dial is very good. I like the date complication cited at 6 o'clock rather than the default position of 3 because it retains the symmetry of the dial. Legibility of the date complication is very good because the date window is large enough, it's correctly proportioned. The white date wheel contrasts very well with the black Arabic numerals. Both the single and the double Arabic numerals on the date wheel are correctly proportioned. The font is nice and fine, it's high definition and crisp, it's not too thick, it's not blurry. The alignment is also excellent, it's not too far to the left or right, or too high or too low, so the Arabic numerals align correctly in the date window. Proportion of the handset is very good. The hands are made from brass, which actually matches the bronze bezel and bronze case very well, similar gilt tone to it. The minute hand is correctly proportioned, it's long enough to extend to the minute ticks on the chapter ring, and I like the rectangle loom pip on the sweeping second hand. The tip of the second hand is also long enough to extend to the minute ticks, so they've got the proportions of the handset correct, and the baton hands are clearly legible. They make a refreshing change from using the default option of Mercedes hands. So one detail I like is the low profile bronze rehort, and it's a very slender low profile rehort. Now the benefit of this is the flat sapphire crystal sits very close to the handset, sits very close to the dial, and also the date complication. So rather than having a deep rehort, it means that the sapphire crystal looks very close to the dial. The legibility is good, it's enhanced, the clarity is very good. With regards to the bezel, it's made from solid bronze, and the bezel insert is aluminium, but it is gilt. The minute ticks are gilt, and also the Arabic numerals are gilt, which matches the bronze case. We have an inlaid loom pip at 12 o'clock, and it's very aesthetically pleasing because it's low profile, as you can see, and it has very fine coin edge teeth to it. Gives the piece a nice vintage aesthetic, and they've made the correct decision by using a coin edge teeth bezel rather than a scalloped bezel or gear tooth profile, because this does give it a more vintage aesthetic, being a 39mm piece without crown guards. So the aluminium bezel insert has a metallic finish to it, but it's matte rather than being glossy as per ceramic. Now, subjectively, one could be critical of this and say ceramic is harder and more scratch resistant. Aluminium is of course softer and therefore prone to being scuffed and scratched more easily, but using an aluminium bezel insert does give it a reflective sheen, and one doesn't get that with ceramic. The 15-minute ticks in the first quarter and the Arabic numerals have a reflective property, and the bronze tone perfectly matches the bronze tone of the bezel and also the head of the piece. So I like it. I think they've made the correct decision. It gives it a vintage aesthetic. Ceramic would have looked too contemporary for a no crown guards bronze case like this. The aluminium bezel insert is very well executed. The font used on the Arabic numerals is nice and fine, it's not thick, and also the minute ticks are very well executed. So they've done a very good job of the aluminium bezel insert. So with regards to the case, it's made from solid bronze, brushed satin finish to the top of the lugs, and that complements the longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the flanks. Nice fine grained finish to the brushed satin finishing. Nice curved undercuts, which is a characteristic of the Combat Sub 39 case. It's got a nice curved profile to the case, and the lugs are pierced, and this is good because it makes it easier to remove the spring bars and exchange the strap. Now, of course, this is a NATO strap, so it's easy to remove. But for example, if you're exchanging this for a leather or rubber strap with standard spring bars, it's nice to have pierced lugs because you can externally use the push pin in a spring bar tool to depress the spring bar. This does come with quick release spring bars anyway. Now, looking at the crown guard side, you can see also beautiful luster to the longitudinal brushed satin finishing, nice crisp edges which mark the transition between the top of the curved lugs and the flanks, and again we have a nice curved undercut, no sharp edges to the undercut, and the four corners to the tips of the lugs have been deburred and chamfered very well. With regards to the crown, it's coin edge finished, nice fine coin edge finishing to it, large chamfer to it, so no sharp tips to the teeth of the coin edge teeth, and it's signed with an embossed Glycine crown to a high standard, very aesthetically pleasing, correct proportion to the crown, it's very grippy and tactile. So let's test the bezel execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel as one would expect. Nice, loud, audible clicks. Feels good. Each click feels very solid. You can feel the resistance of the click spring beneath the bronze bezel engaging with each of the 120 clicks. Feels robust and reliable. I like the feeling of it, heavy indexing to the ratcheting mechanism, and the sound of it. I like the loud audible clicks. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever. In terms of resistance, it's got a medium firm resistance. Feels very similar to a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which has a firm bezel action. Or to put it into perspective, also feels very similar to a Seiko 5KX in terms of resistance. It's got that medium firm resistance, feels very reliable, feels nice and tight. Feels even all the way through the 360 degrees, doesn't get tighter or looser. And I like the medium firm resistance to it, feels robust. So let's just check the alignment. One more click. Perfect. The loomed pip on the bezel insert perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial and the 60-minute tick on the gilt chapter ring. So this is an example to other mid-tier Swiss-made brands how to get bezel execution correct. Medium firm resistance, feels even all the way through the 360 degrees, no lateral side-to-side play, no back play, perfect alignment. This could not be improved upon. I like the firm resistance of it, I like the loud audible clicks, and I like the execution of it, the tightness, the fact there's no play in it whatsoever, and the alignment is of course correct. So let's test the screw down crown execution. The bronze screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters, which is strong specification. Absolutely silky smooth. This is sublime screw down crown execution. So perfect interface between the internal thread of the screw down crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So minimal number of turns required to unscrew it. When it's unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position, so one can manually wind the Glycine caliber GL0517 automatic, which is the Sellita SW200-1. Medium resistance, one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. Feels very good. I like the feeling of manually winding the caliber SW200-1 or the Glycine caliber GL0224. Feels very good. One can feel the tension gradually building up. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So rotating the crown clockwise advances the quick set date. Just bear with me, I'll move the minute hand out of the way so you can see it better. There we are. Just bear with me, I'll get the date setting position again. So rotating the crown clockwise advances the quick set date. So as I've detailed, both the singles and the double Arabic numerals on the date wheel align correctly. They're not too far to the left or right, or too high or too low. I like the fonts because it's nice and fine, the legibility is good, and the black Arabic numerals contrast very well with the white date wheel. Proportions are good, Arabic numerals are legible, and I like the feeling of it. Now, in terms of how does it feel, the SW200-1 is effectively a clone of the ETA 2824-2 with an extra joule added. It has 26 joules versus the 25 joules of the ETA 2824-2. But the date complication feels exactly the same. There's no discernible difference. It feels lighter than a Seiko NH35A, which has a heavy clicking mechanism to the quickset complication, and I like it. It feels very good. Good solid indexing, but feels light. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the caliber SW200-1. Nice medium resistance to the gearing. Minimal back play, feels smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise when you cycle through the 12 hours. So it feels good to set the time, and I like it. Now there is some slight back play, and that's a characteristic of the SW200-1. When you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, the minute hand doesn't immediately respond. You have to take up the slack. There's some very slight back play in the gearing, and that's just a characteristic of the SW200-1 you have to live with. But once you become accustomed to taking up the slack, it does feel very good to set the time. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and the second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again at the characteristic 4 Hz sweep. This is something I like about the SW200-1. It doesn't stutter or judder with the second hand at 3 Hz because it runs at 4 Hz, which is 28,800 vibrations per hour. It's got that nice smooth 4 Hz sweep. So let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. There's a perfect interface between the bronze crown and the stainless steel crown tube. The threads mesh very well, so quality control, machining, tolerances are excellent. Glycine deserve credit. This is sublime screw down crown execution. Silky smooth to unscrew, silky smooth to screw back down, immediate thread pickup. They could not improve upon it. It is outstanding. And for a mid-tier piece at this price point of €675, they deserve credit for a very well executed 300 metre screw down crown. Right, so I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters, which is strong specification. So just bear with me, I'll undo the NATO strap so you can see it. So as you can see, they've done a very good job with the stainless steel case back. Now, the thing I like about it is it's got a nice flat profile to the centre. It's not a bubble back profile to it. Now bear in mind, this has a rotor on the underside of the SW200-1, but it's the kind of flat case back one would expect with a manual wind piece without a rotor. And I like that they haven't made it too deep, but 300 meters is strong specification. We're not looking at a 200 meter water resistant piece. This is 300, but it doesn't have a very thick case back. They've made the correct decision by making the case back from stainless steel rather than bronze, because of course this isn't going to patina and corrode. Stainless steel is the better choice, and of course rubbing against the wrist, it's not going to create any allergies, for example, if you're allergic to bronze. So it is the right choice, and as you can see, they've done a very good job of engraving and embossing it. Feels nice and smooth, doesn't feel rough or sharp against the wrist. The circumference is concentric CNC lathe tool machined and engraved with the specification and the reference number of the piece to a good standard. So good quality case back, but I think it would look more aesthetically pleasing if they had engraved or embossed the Glycine logo and Glycine crown, and I think that would look better than this fish, but it's subjective. Some collectors might like it. It is done to a good standard, and I like that it is low profile. No sharp edges to the milled slots, which is very good. They feel very smooth, so they've done a very good job of finishing the case back, and also the case is very good. No sharp edges to the undercuts to the bronze case, and as I've detailed, the four corners to the tips of the lugs have been deburred and chamfered very well. So the finishing to the head of the piece is excellent, finishing to the screw down case back is excellent, and 300 meters is strong specification. For example, they could have made it 200 meters. So just bear with me and I'll feed the NATO strap back through it and do it back up. Now, they've also used quick release stainless steel spring bars, which they don't really need to because this has pierced lugs. And of course, as I've detailed, the benefit of the pierced lugs is you can depress the spring bar externally with a spring bar tool if you use standard spring bars, which is good because bronze cases are softer than stainless steel. And with a spring bar tool, of course, it's easy to scuff and scratch bronze or even dent it because it's significantly softer than stainless steel. And when you use standard spring bars, if you have a stiff strap, it can be difficult to depress the spring bar to engage it in between the internals of the lugs and the strap. So by having quick release spring bars with this NATO strap, as you can see, they're stainless steel, but they're quick release. That negates the need for a spring bar tool. If you want to remove the spring bars and exchange this NATO strap for a rubber strap or leather strap, for example. So it's good they've made that correct choice of using the quick release spring bars and also pierced lugs. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now just bear with me, this is going to be tricky with gloves because they've put this vinyl tag on the end of the strap. Now the benefit of that is it prevents the end of the strap fraying, but it's a bit fiddly to get it through the buckle and tang when you're wearing gloves. So just bear with me, I'll do it up. So as you can see, plenty of length on the end of the strap, and the positive of that, just bear with me, I'll fold them out, is I can engage the end of the strap in the brass keepers. Well, the first one anyway. I can just engage it in the second keeper, as you can see, but it's just a fraction too short. So The maximum wrist size, realistically, this will fit is a 7.5-inch wrist. I can just engage the end of the strap into the second keeper. So 8 inches is the absolute maximum, but this is tight on my 8-inch wrist. So really 6 to 7.5 is the correct size. There are plenty of holes. So minimum is 6, maximum is 7.5. The two brass keepers work very well. No sharp edges to them, and it's good to see brass, which complements the bronze. So, wrist presence is good for a 39mm. Now, the thing I most like about it is it's not a very tall piece. This is only 11.4. So, even with a double pass NATO strap, as you can see, it still does not sit very tall on the wrist. With a 300m water-resistant dive piece, one would expect in excess of 13mm. 11.4 is very low profile. This is the benefit of using a flat sapphire crystal rather than a box top pack crystal or a double dome sapphire crystal. It needs to be 2mm thick in order to provide 300 meters of water resistance, but by using a flat sapphire crystal versus double domed or box top hat profile, it reduces the thickness. This piece is only 11.4. And as I've detailed, the other benefit of the case back being flat rather than bubble back is that this sits very snug to the wrist. Even with a NATO strap beneath it, the curved undercut to the flanks and also the curved profile to the lugs means it wraps around the wrist, so it's a very snug fit piece. So 11.4, needless to say, will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. Anything below 13mm is the sweet spot. Very comfortable piece to wear. Now, it feels very lightweight for a bronze piece. This is only 92 grams. Often bronze pieces are heavy. They feel top heavy on wrist, especially if they're worn on a fabric NATO strap. This does not feel top heavy. 39 gives this a nice vintage look and also a feeling of a vintage piece because it's got a nice taper to the lugs. They're very curved. They curve and wrap around the wrist. Nice low profile bronze bezel. So it does give the aesthetic of a vintage 1960s or 1970s dive piece without the crown guards on the case. I really like the bronze bezel. The coin edge teeth catch the light and they complement the brushed satin finishing to the case, and also the aluminium bezel insert, which has the bronze gilt minute ticks and also the air brake numerals, does give it a vintage aesthetic. It's a great looking piece. Comfort level is good, feel good factor is good, and I think the black fabric nylon NATO strap complements it with a bronze buckle and tang. The black and the gold tone of it with the gilt, it does look very good. And I think of the 4 colour options, black, blue, green and burgundy, this black and gilt version or black and bronze version is the best looking. Absolutely gorgeous piece. 2 years of international warranty is also very impressive, and I like the fact that it's 300 meters, so strong specification. AR coating works well, legibility is good. Gilt hands, which are made from brass, they do complement the gilt chaptering and the gilt Arabic numerals for the 24-hour numerals on the dial. So legibility is good, date complication is legible, nice and low profile at 11.4. The lug to lug is relatively short, 46.5. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48 to be the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug to lug measurement, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, respectively. 48 is the perfect sweet spot. So at 46.5, it's rather compact. It's 1.5mm below the perfect 48. But if you are a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, 46.5 will fit you very well. So it's a good compact case at 39. 46.5 is good for a smaller wrist. Even with a larger wrist, for example, on my 8-inch wrist, there is enough wrist presence with the 39mm head of the piece. Has a nice vintage aesthetic to it, which I like. So comfort level is good. Feel good factor is good. And this nylon fabric NATO strap is very soft and supple. It doesn't feel rough and stiff. It feels like it's broken in, which is good. The detail I like about it, as I've shown you, is the strip of vinyl, as you can see. And this is good because often nylon NATO straps have a tendency to fray around the holes, and the holes become elongated with regular use. There's a nice fine weave to the nylon fabric, but I like the fact that they've got this strip which reinforces the holes, and that's an area that's prone to being wear and tear. The other thing is I like this tag on the end, which is stitched around it with a glycine crown, because that prevents the end of the fabric from fraying, which is good. So it's a good quality nylon NATO strap and good quality buckle and tang. Right, so let's do a loom test, and we'll see how the loom performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So this uses C3 Superluminova. Now, it has a patina tone to the C3, so in daylight there's a perfect peach colour tone match between the indices and also the handset, which is good. And it should have a nice bright green tone. Right, so that's now fully charged. And as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers on the dial and also 5 to 6 layers on the lume pip on the aluminium bezel insert and 5 to 6 layers on the handset. Hands are correctly proportioned. One can clearly differentiate between the longer, larger minute hand and also the shorter hour hand, so that's good. Also, I like the rectangular lume pip on the sweeping second hand. You can see the second hand sweeping around at 4 Hz with a nice smooth sweep. Good colour tone match, but the handset looks slightly brighter, so the exciter in the hands is glowing slightly brighter than on the indices and the lume pip. So the lume pip and the dial has a darker green tone to it. The hands have a whiter tone to the C3. That indicates more layers of C3 Superluminova on the handset than the dial and the lume pip. So there is room for improvement. Glycine could improve the quality of the matching of the green colour tone, because in daylight the peach tone looks correct. On the dial and hands it matches, they don't look lighter or darker, but in the dark you can see the lume pip and the dial have the same green tone. The hands have a slightly lighter green tone. It's close but slightly lighter, and I think that's down to more layers being applied on the hands. But in terms of performance, it's excellent. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6. On the hands we might even be looking at more than 6 layers because they're brighter. But the exciter is continuing to glow for a good length of time, nice and bright, and I like the green tone of the C3. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. So as I've detailed, Glycine call this the caliber GL0517 automatic, but they're very open and honest about it being based on the Sellita SW200-1. For example, if you look at glycinestore.eu, in the specifications they detailed the GL0224-1 is made by Sellita, not Glycine themselves. So it has 26 joules and it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which is used for complications, and also a quick set date complication, which works very well as I've demonstrated. The standard grade of SW200-1 has a stated accuracy of plus or minus 12 to plus or minus 30 seconds per day, so a rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Glycine are doing a good job of regulating the SW200-1s they're using. This one is running consistently at plus 6 seconds per day, which is actually chronometer grade accuracy of minus 4 to plus 6. So plus 6 is well within the standard grade accuracy of plus or minus 12 to plus or minus 30 seconds per day. And I really think they deserve credit for that, because it's well within the plus or minus 12, and plus 6 is actually chronometer or top grade accuracy for an SW200-1 regulated in 5 positions. So they're doing a good job of regulating it. The SW200-1 is a reliable, well-proven workhorse Swiss movement, and I like it. You'll know from my previous reviews, the SW200-1 is one of my personal favourites. The hand winding feels good, hacking works well, quick set date complication works well, 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. No negatives to it whatsoever. It is the correct choice at this price point for a mid-tier piece costing €675. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, price point is €675. Now I'm going to declare the quality as excellent, but the value as okay. I'm not going to say good or excellent value, because at €675 this does face some stiff competition from other mid-tier brands, and at this price point there are other pieces which are less expensive with similar specification. The 300 meters is strong specification, AR coating works well, the bezel execution is outstanding, screw down crown is sublime. Bronze is a more expensive material, and of course the quality of the machining is excellent. Quality control, build quality and tolerances are fantastic throughout. It's a good quality nylon strap with a good quality bronze buckle and tang. So no cost-cutting measures, but however they could improve the lume, the C3 Superluminova. The colour tone match in daylight is good, but I think they need to refine it to get a better colour tone match in the dark between the handset and the applied indices. But other than that, it's an excellent quality piece. I just think that Glycine should reduce the price point below €675 in order to make it a better value proposition. I would upgrade it to good or excellent value if this were below €500, for example. €675 is expensive, but of course it is a Swiss-made piece with a Swiss-made movement, the SW200-1. So, excellent quality, okay value. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Glycine Combat Sub 39 Bronze GL0517. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.